At the Reeves dinner table, crystal and silver sparkled, but the real tradition was humiliation served cold to Catherine.
Remarkable how some people adapt to a lifestyle they didn't earn.
Those pearls look expensive, Catherine. Another gift from our son's trust fund?
They were my grandmother's, Eleanor. I've had them since I was 20.
Catherine held her composure, but under the table, her knuckles whitened. Christopher stared into his wine, silent as always. Excusing herself, Catherine slipped away to the powder room and pulled out her phone. On her phone, a portfolio statement glowed. Over $15 million accumulated before she ever met Christopher. The prenup they'd forced on her was airtight, but they'd never read the clause protecting each spouse's separate assets. 12 years of insults, and the real gold digger had been the one with the gold all along. But 12 years earlier, Catherine was a business school professor whose side empire was already worth millions. She met Christopher at a charity gala. He was the only Reeves who smiled without a hidden spreadsheet.
He's different from the rest of his family. He actually listens.
A month later, he brought her to his parents' estate for the first time.
Your family name, dear. I don't recall it from any of our circles.
No connections, Eleanor. My parents taught high school.
Harold hired a private investigator. The report showed a modest upbringing and no inheritance. He concluded she was a fortune hunter.
She's after the family money, Christopher. We'll need to protect ourselves.
Catherine sensed the digging. She let them. Her real financial empire stayed hidden. 6 months later, Christopher proposed. The ring was beautiful, but the prenup was already in draft. A week before the wedding, the Reeves family attorney, Margaret Caldwell, laid out the prenuptial agreement on a mahogany table.
This document protects the family fortune, Catherine. We expect you to sign without any fuss.
Consider it a formality for someone with limited assets.
Limited assets. If only they knew.
Catherine read each clause with the care of someone who drafted her own contracts. Then she picked up the pen. She signed without a single question, her signature crisp and final.
Well, that was easier than expected.
Harold and Eleanor exchanged a triumphant glance. The gold digger had been neutralized, or so they thought. Christopher gave her an apologetic look, but said nothing. The deal was sealed. The prenup was now law. Catherine knew exactly whose fortune it truly protected. In the early years of marriage, every Reeves dinner ended the same way.
Catherine, I see you've redecorated. I hope you are not using the family accounts.
My projects are funded by my own work, Harold. You have nothing to worry about.
Your own work. A few consulting hours barely cover your shopping, dear.
She has no idea that my few hours bill more than this entire house.
Her real work happened in a glass office downtown, where Catherine managed Fortune 500 clients. The firm's revenue doubled every 2 years, but the Reeves never asked, so she never explained.
You are never home for dinner, Catherine. A wife's place is with her family.
And a mother-in-law's place is not in my schedule, Eleanor.
Year after year, the insults sharpened. Catherine's true fortune deepened, hidden in documents only she knew existed. 12 years into the marriage, Harold's hedge fund cratered on a risky leveraged bet. Red overdue notices piled on his desk like autumn leaves. The Reeves estate was hemorrhaging cash.
Harold, if we don't find liquidity, we'll lose the house and the club membership.
There's one source of ready capital, the marital assets. Catherine's half of everything should cover it.
But the prenup, surely the prenup protects Christopher's inheritance, not hers.
Exactly. That document was written to keep her hands off our money. By extension, the opposite must apply.
At the country club, the next afternoon, Harold laid out his plan to Eleanor under the chandeliers.
We'll corner her at dinner. She'll have no choice. The prenup gives us legal standing.
Harold believed the prenup was a weapon against Catherine. He never paused to read the actual clauses. That evening, the dinner invitation arrived at Catherine's home. The confrontation was only hours away. The dinner table felt like a boardroom. Harold barely touched his steak before he began.
Catherine, the family faces a severe liquidity shortfall. We must liquidate certain marital assets immediately.
What assets, Harold? Christopher and I don't hold joint property.
Your jewelry, the car, whatever our son generously provided. Surely you can't cling to those while we lose our home.
The prenup gives us legal grounds. Assets acquired during marriage are partially ours. Don't make this ugly.
The prenup is mutual, Harold. Nothing you've named belongs to Christopher. Let's let the attorney explain it.
Harold's jaw tightened. He had not anticipated her turning the prenup back on them.
Call Margaret Caldwell. Let her interpret the clauses we all agreed to 12 years ago.
After Catherine and Christopher departed, Harold slammed his fist on his desk, sending creditor notices flying. The call was made. Margaret Caldwell was summoned for a formal review of the prenuptial agreement Catherine had signed without a single objection. Margaret Caldwell arrived at the Reeves estate carrying a leather-bound folder and an expression of professional calm.
Margaret, we need to liquidate marital assets. The prenup gives us the authority to override Catherine's objections.
Harold, this prenuptial agreement is a standard mutual separate property document. It protects both spouses equally.
She opened the document to a tabbed section, her reading glasses steady on her nose.
Section 2 reads, each spouse's premarital assets and any gifts or inheritances received individually shall remain their sole and separate property.
But surely that doesn't apply to what Christopher gave her. He bought her that car, the jewelry.
Section 3 clarifies, gifts between spouses are the recipient's separate property, unless explicitly commingled. The prenup does not distinguish based on who bought the gift.
So, by the terms Harold insisted on, and I signed without protest, everything Christopher gave me is legally mine alone.
This is absurd. We drafted this to protect the family estate, not to shield her from contributing when we're drowning.
Margaret closed the folder with deliberate care. Harold's face had gone from smug to ashen in under 5 minutes. Margaret pulled a separate binder from her folder, Catherine's premarital financial disclosures from 12 years earlier.
At the time of the marriage, Catherine Reeves held documented assets totaling over $15 million, not including her consulting firm.
That's impossible. She came from nothing.
The private investigator only looked for inheritance, Mr. Reeves. He never checked the equity in a company she built from scratch.
Then Margaret turned to a list of purchases that the family had assumed were theirs.
The summer home renovation funded by Catherine in 2018. The Tesla registered in both names but paid for entirely from her account. Legally, those are her separate property.
Harold's hands began to shake. The prenup he'd insisted on was now an iron cage around his own desperation.
You can't expect me to believe our son's wife has been richer than us all along.
I never expected belief, Eleanor. I only expected the law you wrote to protect the family fortune.
The room fell into a suffocating silence. For the first time in 12 years, Harold and Eleanor Reeves had no words.
You let us believe you were nothing. You made us look like fools.
I never let you believe anything. You assumed. You insulted. I simply didn't correct you.
Catherine, we're family. You can't watch us collapse. The prenup wasn't meant for this.
The prenup was meant to protect the family fortune from the gold digger, wasn't it? It did exactly that.
Catherine set down her untouched tea and rose from her chair with the grace of someone who had already won.
Call me when you are ready to discuss this like adults, not entitled thieves.
She walked out without looking back, her heels clicking on the marble floor like a metronome counting their humiliation.
She'll come back. She has to. She loves Christopher.
She loves me, but she doesn't need me. That's what they never understood.
The Reeves estate felt hollow now, a museum of their own arrogance. Catherine hadn't just left the room. She'd left them with the terrifying reality that their survival depended on her mercy. Catherine sat in her home office, the city lights distant through the window. Her portfolio glowed on the screen, untouchable by the Reeves.
They deserve to lose everything. After 12 years of poison, why should I save them?
But then she thought of Christopher, the only Reeves who had ever looked at her like she mattered, even if he never spoke up.
I love him, but love doesn't pay debts. If I help, it will be on my terms.
She opened her laptop and drafted a loan agreement with the precision of a woman who had built an empire. The terms were businesslike: 5% interest, collateral against the summer home, and a 10-year repayment schedule. But she added a non-negotiable condition: a permanent seat on the Reeves Family Financial Council.
They called me a gold digger. Now they'll call me their creditor.
She printed the documents. Her signature would transform her from victim to victor. The woman in the mirror wore emerald and pearls, the same Catherine the Reeves had mocked, but never again the same position. 2 days later, Catherine summoned the Reeves to her home. They came like supplicants, not royalty. She slid a black binder across the table. The loan agreement waited inside like a loaded weapon.
The terms: 5% interest, summer home as collateral, 10-year repayment, and I hold a permanent seat on the family board.
Interest? Collateral? We're your family, not a hedge fund.
I am not a bank that cares about your feelings. You treated me like a parasite for 12 years. Now you will pay for surviving.
This is outright humiliation.
No, Eleanor. Humiliation was being called a gold digger while I quietly funded your vacations. This is just business.
Christopher, say something. Stop this.
Christopher opened his mouth, but no sound came. He was caught between the woman he loved and the family who raised him.
You have 48 hours. Then the offer expires. Decide.
The 48 hours ticked away in silence. Harold arrived at Catherine's office alone, his pride already frayed.
Remove the interest clause, Catherine. Family shouldn't profit from family.
The terms are final, and I've added a condition: a signed, written apology for 12 years of lies, plus a public statement of my contribution to this family.
A public apology? You might as well ask me to kneel.
Christopher stepped forward. For the first time, his voice held no tremor.
Sign it, Dad. She's right. I should have defended her years ago. We owe her this. We owe her everything.
Harold's shoulders sagged. Eleanor nodded once, her face a mask of defeat. The pen scratched across the paper. Catherine watched his trembling signature with the detachment of a notary, not a daughter-in-law. Margaret Caldwell notarized the final page. The prenup that had once caged Catherine now bound the Reeves to her terms of survival. The gold digger had become the creditor, and the family who once mocked her now survived only by her mercy. Within a week, the loan transferred. Creditors who had circled like vultures received their payments from an account in Catherine Reeves's name. The Reeves estate was saved, but it now operated under Catherine's silent oversight, every dollar tracked. At the first family dinner after the crisis, Eleanor could not help herself.
I suppose now we know what a gold digger's interest rate looks like.
Enough, Eleanor. That word is dead in this house. She saved us.
Catherine said nothing, but the corner of her mouth curved upward. She had heard a man finally defend her, even if it was his own survival at stake. The next week, Catherine took her place at the head of the Family Financial Council, a seat guaranteed by the loan agreement. Harold and Christopher sat across from her as she reviewed the family ledger with the precision of a CEO.
She's more thorough than my hedge fund managers ever were. I underestimated her in every possible way.
The old insults stopped. The new reality was uncomfortable but stable. Catherine had not just rewritten the prenup, she had rewritten the family. Within a month, the murmur started. A creditor leak, a society columnist's whisper. The Reeves had been saved by the daughter-in-law they'd always mocked. At the charity auction, a longtime friend of Eleanor's leaned in with a sharp smile. I heard the most remarkable thing about your daughter-in-law. Is it true she paid off your debts?
Catherine helped with the restructuring. It was a family decision.
The words cost her more than the loan interest ever could. That same week, at a cocktail party, a woman approached Catherine with genuine admiration. "You must be quite the businesswoman. The way you handled the family's situation was masterful."
I simply made an investment.
The phrase, gold digger, began to feel like a relic of someone else's story. The Sunday edition ran a headline no one expected: "Reeves family fortune saved by daughter-in-law." The article detailed the prenup's true function and Catherine's quiet wealth before marriage. The narrative was shifting. The gold digger was being rewritten as the golden creditor. Catherine stood by the window, the newspaper article folded on the sill. Footsteps behind her. Christopher stopped a few feet away, his hands clenched at his sides, a man facing a decade of silence.
I should have defended you, not stood by while my parents tore you apart.
I didn't need you to defend me, Christopher. I needed you to stand with me when it mattered.
Then I'll start now. No more silence.
She turned from the window, and for the first time in years, her eyes held no guardedness. He crossed the room and kissed her cheek, a silent promise.
We're partners now. That's what matters.
They stood together in the soft light, the weight of 12 years of pretense finally lifting from their shoulders. The marriage hadn't just survived the prenup. It had been forged into something sturdier than any legal clause. Eleanor sat alone in her bedroom, the house quiet. She pulled a leather-bound album from the closet. The pages fell open to a wedding photo, Catherine smiling innocently, while the Reeves family looked past her.
She was never after our money. She was richer than we could have dreamed.
She turned the page. A photo of the summer home renovation, Catherine overseeing the builders, while Eleanor had bragged about the family improvements.
I called her a gold digger while she paid for my vacations.
Her hands trembled as she closed the album. The word gold digger echoed in her mind, now a mirror reflecting herself.
I was the one obsessed with status. I was the real gold digger.
The facade cracked. Tears slid down her cheeks, leaving mascara tracks. She sat motionless, the weight of 12 years of cruelty pressing on her chest. No apology yet. Only the quiet, terrifying truth she had to face alone. 3 weeks after the loan, a creditor filed a motion challenging the prenup's validity, aiming for Catherine's assets. Margaret Caldwell received the motion with calm disdain. She drafted the prenup herself.
This motion is frivolous. The prenup was executed with full disclosure and witnessed.
In court, Margaret presented the original document, its notarized pages speaking louder than the creditor's lawyer. Harold, seated in the gallery, watched with a tight chest. He had once believed the prenup was a weapon he could wield. The judge dismissed the motion with prejudice, calling the prenup one of the most rigorous he'd ever reviewed. The ruling became public record, another bullet point in Catherine's legal armor.
Even the courts confirm she was never the gold digger.
The Reeves family heard the news in silence. The prenup they demanded had permanently locked them out. Catherine received the news with a quiet smile. The document meant to cage her had become her shield. 1 month after the court victory, the Reeves hosted a family banquet. The room was packed with relatives who had heard the rumors.
12 years ago, we insisted on a prenup to protect our son from a woman we misjudged. We were wrong. That document meant to be her cage, became her shield, and our salvation. Catherine, we apologize. Not because your money saved us, but because you were never the gold digger. You were the one with the gold all along.
I'm sorry.
Catherine rose slowly. The room fell silent, every eye fixed on her.
I signed that prenup without protest because I already had my own empire. I didn't need your family's money. I don't need your apologies either, but I will accept your respect.
The gold digger narrative died in that moment, buried under 12 years of quiet truth. The prenup they designed to trap the gold digger had protected her fortune from them. 4 months after the banquet, Harold sat at his home office, transferring the quarterly loan payment to Catherine's account. Catherine, on her terrace with morning coffee, watched the confirmation email arrive on her phone. The payment was precisely on schedule.
12 years of insults, and now they pay me interest. The irony is almost too sweet.
That evening, the four of them dined at a quiet restaurant. The old Barbs were absent.
The wine is excellent, Catherine. Thank you for choosing it.
Later, in her library, Catherine circled dates for a Mediterranean cruise, paid for entirely by her empire.
This is the life I built, and the one I chose to share.
She walked through the garden, the mansion still hers by marriage, but her presence no longer questioned. The insults had stopped. Eleanor's tone had softened, if only because silence was more dignified. The prenup that was meant to exclude her had made her indispensable. The Gold Digger label was dead. The city's industry gala honored Catherine as Entrepreneur of the Year. Her firm's logo loomed on the main screen. The same society figures who once whispered about her now stood and applauded.
I built my company from a laptop and a plan. No inheritance, no shortcuts. Success is built quietly, over years, without anyone's permission.
I suppose even I have to admit, she earned this.
Later, Christopher took her hand on the dance floor, whispering his pride. The reporter covering the event never learned about the prenup because Catherine never mentioned it. The victory required no gloating. The truth was now public record. Catherine's emerald blouse and single pearl strand were the same she wore the night they first called her a gold digger. Only now, they were proof not of greed, but of quiet, unshakable triumph. Catherine stood at the window of her own home, not the Reeves mansion, and gazed at the city lights. For 12 years, they had called her a gold digger. The prenup they designed to trap her ended up protecting her fortune from them. The twist no one saw coming was that the gold digger was the one with the gold all along.
They never understood that my silence was my strategy.
She touched the pearls at her throat, her grandmother's, never a gift from Christopher. The half-smile appeared, composed and entirely at peace. The emerald blouse that had once been a target was now her armor. Outside the window, the sun set on a world that finally knew the truth. For the first time in 13 years, Catherine Reeves felt complete. Catherine walked into her home office, the sunset warming the glass of the window. She stopped before her desk. Behind it, a thick framed document hung on the wall. The prenup, the document, sealed in glass, her signature crisp and unshaken after 12 years. Catherine's half-smile, a quiet curve of vindication, reflected in the glass. She reached up and touched the frame, her fingers steady, the gesture final. Outside the window, the city skyline burned gold beneath the setting sun. She stood in her emerald blouse and pearls, the framed prenup on the wall behind her. Irrefutable proof. The words on the glass read, "The prenup protected my money." Catherine looked at it. The ghost of 12 years of insults finally exorcised. She turned to the window, and her composed half-smile said everything.